Friends, welcome Dr. Khushro. We would be starting around 6:35 or so. And any question on anything, you can WhatsApp us or make it in a chat. We will reply later on. And Dr. Khushro, at the end of your talk, please give your email ID so that people can ask the question to you. And we are live streaming on Zoom, on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. So you can reach it. Okay. So we would start around 6:35, or should we start, Dr. Kushal?
Yeah, we'll wait for 5 minutes for people to join in. We usually, this is a working day, so people will take a little while to come, but yeah. And Vedant, an answer to your question is, it is right now in Nitin Bhai's, Chartered Accountant Nitin Pathak's office. Right now, the Isaka Ahmedabad chapter is located in CA Nitin Pathak's office. Okay. Yeah.
We'll be starting in 5 minutes time.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes time now. Okay. Good evening, friends. Uh, we are inviting you to a Zoom webinar on auditing on information system security. Today's subject is very live, very important. If you look at today, the war is going on between Russia and Ukraine, but the main war is also played on a security side, cyber security also. If you've heard, it has been cracked, it has been hacked by Russian in a big way. So most of the time, war is not won on physical mode nowadays. If you look at the Chinese, when Trump has won, Trump has says that I would to send the document from one embassy to another through physical mode only. What does it mean for him before Trump come into power? He said that most of the computers and the embassy are hacked by Chinese hacker. And I tell you today, the previously people were come to your place, hack the house, ताला तोड़ के आपके घर से ले जाते. Now nobody would come to your place like this. They would take away everything on security only. And I've been fortunate to be with Khushru doctor for a very long time. After passing CA, I met him and he made me aware of a lot of security issue. And he made me to study CISSP and many things. And I'm proud to be with him as a friend. And today I'm lucky that he has agreed to speak on the different subject. And I will not introduce to him as this, but I will ask him to give his brief about his qualification and everything. I know he's only CISA, but he's in this field a champion of the champion. With this, I hand over the mic to Dr. Khushru. He is today chairman of Ithaca chapter, president of Ithaca chapter, and we are in continuous 2 years, second highest incremental in the membership. And today, under his leadership, we are not going to be number 2. This time, we are going to be number 1, I assure you. Okay. With this, I hand over the charge to Dr. Khushru. We are recording, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hand over to you.
Thank you, Nitin Bhai, for your kind words as always. And Nitin Bhai's support in everything that we do in Isaka means a lot. Okay. So it has been his efforts that we have got this chapter to Ahmedabad. So, like, we move on. Today's topic is very relevant: auditing of information systems. And why is it very relevant? Is because all of us, whether we are CISA, DISA, or CA, all of us have one common functionality, and that is to do audit. So that is where we thought that we'll try and introduce this topic of auditing information systems to all of you, and then maybe take it forward in one other sessions where we can do more detail about how hands-on and audit can be conducted. So my introduction. I am Khushru Doctor. I am the CEO and owner of 2 private limited companies, Tasha Technologies or Tasha Tech Info Solutions Private Limited, which is an IT services company. And I am also the CEO and founder of Metis IntelliSystems Private Limited, a company dedicated to creating fintech products using artificial intelligence and machine learning. I might not be too egoistic if I say that I might be the first CISA of Gujarat. I became a CISA in 1997, and since then have maintained my certification. I'm not an aggressive auditor, but I'm more of an hobbyist security person, implementing security within IT systems, as well as teaching the subject on information systems security at a lot of universities and colleges. I have taught this subject for 9 years at DIICT, and 3 years at Ahmedabad University. So, except that I am also a project management professional, PMP certified. I am a certified Scrum Master. I am a Six Sigma Green Belt, and I am also a diploma in innovation and design thinking. So that is in a brief about me. And along with the support of Manish and Nitin Bhai and a lot of others in the chapter, I have been now the chairperson or the president of ISACA. So let us talk about the topic today. And I don't know whether you keep up with reading the common or the current affairs that go on within audit. And America or the security agencies at America have already accepted that the next world war, there will be the fourth dimension to the fight. So there are already 3 accepted dimensions, and the 3 accepted dimensions are land, air, and sea. And the 4th dimension of war is going to be the cyberspace. Today, for anything that we do, we use internet, we use computers, we use the IT systems, and hence cyber protecting your virtual data, your virtual presence is very important. Like, you might not even know how much other people know about you. There was an experiment that was conducted a few years back. A journalist of a reputed magazine threw up a challenge. He and his friend were discussing about security of your personal data, and he said, and his friend said that all your data is available in public, and he said it cannot be. I have never shared anything. So he paid $300 to a few hackers and said, okay, you hack me. He gave his identity and said, you have to hack me only. I guarantee you that I will not conduct any legal action against you. So the hackers, only for $300, were able to give him everything that he knew and he did not know. His bank accounts, his bank account passwords, his wife's bank accounts, their passwords, his children's history, everything. And he was really surprised. So that is where the thing lies. And that is where audit plays a very important role, where what audit does is audit works in a way that it tries to find out vulnerabilities and faults within the system before they can get discovered. And hence it gives the owners of the information systems a leeway to plug the gaps before they are discovered by the black hat community and exploited. So that is the main fundamental aspect of auditing. I can see there are a lot of chartered accountant auditors in this group, and a lot of these auditors have conducted chartered accountant audits. So they are basically familiar with the auditing as a concept. But now we are going to take this concept at a different level and try to audit an information system and see how an information system can be audited. In this session, if at all you want to ask a question, there are multiple ways. One is that you can put your hand up and we'll take a pause and allow you to ask a question, or you can write it down in the chat window where I will try and answer all your questions at the end of the session. At the end of the session, as Nitin Bhai said, I will also give my ID, and you can, if there are any questions, you can feel free to Send me the questions and I will answer to the best of my ability. So, okay, moving on. So first of all, what are the main aspects of information systems audit or security? What are we trying to achieve when we say that I have a secured system? What are the parameters that we are trying to do protect? And those are always, this is very important for any security professional, any person wanting to enter into information or any sort of security mechanism, any security, a generic security. There are three things, there are three words that are literally like Gita mantra or your mantra for success. And these three things are confidentiality, that if my information is there, then it should remain confidential unless I plan to expose it. Okay, I plan to share it. So the first definition of the world of security is confidentiality. The second is integrity. Integrity is about that the data shall remain in the same form as it was generated. It will not be manipulated or changed without the permission of the owner or the permission that the owner has given to anyone else. Okay. And the third is availability. Availability is that all the systems that are there should be available to the person with who is supposed to use the system. So these are the three main things around security. Three main words. If you ever were to ask what is security and how do I find out whether a system is secured or not, you have to just in your mind ask yourself, is it confidential? Is the data integrity maintained, or the integrity of the information system maintained? And is it available? If these three questions can be answered, then you know what level of security is there for any system. These days, a fourth mechanism, a fourth dimension has also been added, and that dimension is known as non-repudiation. Non-repudiation means if I were to transmit any data or I am transmitting any information system, then can I ensure that when it is sent out to a receiver, the receiver can it be acknowledged that that information is received successfully at the receiver end. So for example, if I were to send you a message, how do I ensure that you have received that message? Now see, if you understand, like WhatsApp has that single tick, double tick, and blue double ticks. Now blue double ticks ensures, that means that that message has been seen. Now because of privacy concerns, there are ways of turning it on, but that in some way affects the fourth dimension of security, non-repudiation. And for that reason, since it has impact on privacy also, it is usually kept out and used as an optional mechanism of security. Okay, so this in a nutshell are the main aspects or the fundamentals of security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Moving on. So what is the purpose of information systems audit? What are we trying to achieve? And the purpose of IS audit is to evaluate and organize. See here, understand this word information systems. We are not talking about just hardware. We are talking about everything that makes a information system. That includes the software, the application software that is needed to run, the database that is necessary, the operating system that is there, the servers on which your application is located, the network connectivity of the information of the software application, the electricity that connects to the server on which your information system is or your application is located, and the access to the box, along with the people that manage the system as well as the people that develop the system. So it encompasses everything that is necessary for the smooth execution of any software or hardware. Okay, so here don't take information system as only the application that is running. No, the platform, everything that is needed to make that application run is a part of the information system. So our job when we do an audit of an information system is to find out whether the three aspects of security, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, is maintained or not. That is the fundamental principle of auditing of information system. Will the information in the systems be disclosed only to authorized users? Can an unauthorized user gain access to the information system, whether it is through hardware, whether it is through software, whatever way? Is the confidentiality being maintained? Second, will the information provided by the system be accurate, reliable, timely, and does not change over transmission? For example, you have the SSL. Why is SSL so important? SSL is important because it ensures that whatever communication happens between the sender and the receiver, it remains in the authentic format. That means the integrity of data transmission is maintained. That is where SSL becomes so important from the security perspective. And finally, will the organization's computer systems be available for business at all times when required? So a lot of different things go into maintaining availability. You can talk about business continuity planning. You can talk about disaster recovery planning. You can do a lot of these kind of stuff when you talk about when you want to audit a system from the perspective of availability. Okay, so there are different things, but fundamentally at all points of time you have to keep on asking these three questions. Auditors have to only concentrate on these three questions: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, this is the basic criteria for audit. I will take a pause for a minute and open myself up for questions. So at this point of time, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll wait, say 15 seconds for this. No questions? Okay, moving on. So what do you do? When you are going to do audit, what do you do? So the first thing that you do is collect and evaluate. We'll see what do you collect and what do you evaluate. Okay, but the fundamental thing that you do is collect and evaluate. Then you examine. Once you have collected and evaluated, you examine in detail, you compare, you ensure, and then you determine the risks. These are the 5 basic things that you do when you are doing an audit, and you do it only from the 3 principles of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So you collect and evaluate the evidence of an organization's information systems, practices, and operations. So you collect data about if there are any policy documents, if there are any logs, if there are any practices, all that is there within an enterprise's security domain, you collect the data for that. You examine the controls within the information technology. Next step that you do is find out what are the controls that are available. Are there any controls in place? Are there any checks and counterbalances in place? All those things that you do. Then you compare them with the available standards. Currently, there are a lot of quality documents available, which are known as the standards for different domains. Like if you are in fintech, there are different standards that are available. If you are working with credit cards, there is the PCI standard. If you are working with healthcare, there is the Hipaa standard. So a lot of these kind of standards that are available. If you are an ISO 27001 certified company, there are different standards. So a lot of these kind of standards exist in the world today, and it is not as if that the standards need to be published by some authority or some organization. The standards can be self-developed and your internal standards also. So then there are best practices, a lot of things that are available. You can compare them and you can make suggestions based on whatever is published and whatever is commonly available. Ensure whether the organization's information system safeguard assets, maintains data integrity, and are operating effectively. Now you have to find out that, okay, you have collected the data, you have seen the infrastructure, you have compared it with standards, but then you have to verify whether all of this is working or not, whether it is just in paper or whether there are some evidence of it that it is working and it is working effectively and efficiently, and whether it is going to affect the organization's top line or bottom line. And finally, there is nothing like a foolproof system. There is nothing like that kind of foolproof system does not exist ever. All systems have at some point of time or the other been compromised and have been hacked. So you have to determine what are the risks involved. If somebody says that I cannot put in place a particular control, or I cannot follow a particular standard, then the question to be asked is why, and whether it would cost a lot of money, or the benefit entailing from that putting in place that control is not getting as much benefit as needed. But all the risks need to be documented, and along with the risks, their mitigation strategies and their contingency strategies should be put in place, because the easiest thing to do is to accept the risk. Okay, I know the risk is there, but if you know the risk is there and there are chances of the risk occurring, then what do you do about it? If the risk were to occur, are you ready to accept the full damage, or will you do something to decrease the level of the risk? So these are the fundamental things that you do with respect to audit when you start auditing any information system. Then, so when you go for audit, or when you start an audit, what will be your focus areas? Where will you focus on? So there are a few areas that are recommended for you to focus on. This list is not exhaustive, but a list that you can start off with, and after that you can really build your own list. But if I was doing the audit, then I would focus on these items. Standards. What are the standards? If there is a particular domain, are there publicly available standards? Like when we go to develop a system, say for Europe, then the first thing that our client tells us is, please focus on GDPR. Okay, so GDPR is something that we need to focus on. So these are the things that can happen. Processes and guidelines and checklists. If an organization should build its own security policy, should build its own processes, If it is a IT software development company, then what are the processes for good quality software development? What are the security policies in place? What should you do? What you should not do? Are the guidelines and the checklists that are there. So you should verify are these documents in place, and not just are these in place, are these being followed? Documentation, any other documentation that is there, the systems themselves, you should focus on the systems themselves. You should focus on the software development process. There is a saying in software development that quality process breeds quality systems. So if are there enough checks and balances within the software development process to ensure that no dirty thing can happen within the process itself. There are a lot of theories around this that says that most of the issues that happen because of internal people issues, not less about external people. So if there are, say, 100 cases of exposure happening, then more than 50% are because of things that went wrong internally. We get to hear a lot about the external exposures because they are external and they get a lot of media publicity. Usually any internal exposure remains within that organization. That organization will never declare it to public that there was something wrong that had happened internally. Software internal implementation processes as to how the software is implemented, what are the checks and balances that happen when the implementation happens. Logs. These are the biggest source of information because logs are automatic. You have no control over them, and logs will log everything that is happening within your system. So since they are automated, they cannot be manually tampered with. They can be at some point of time, they can be, and this is typically at a lot of places when hacking happens, the first target are the logs. Errors and error handling. How do you maintain errors? At one point of time, when you used to see that yellow screen that used to come, the 404 error with a lot of documentation. Now these days you don't see that with a lot of documentation because this has become a standard process, that at some point of time a lot of information was being shared, and the hackers used that information that was there in the error logs to do hacking. So errors and error handling, incident and incident management, how you handle a particular incident, how do you react if an incident has already occurred, how do you react to that incident, and how do you recover out of an incident is of great importance, and that is what your focus should be. Your focus also should, whenever you are doing audit, though your focus should be on prevention of security hacks, but there is always going to be a possibility that a security hack will happen. So there has to be some process in place as to, after a security hack has happened, how do you get back on track very quickly and continue with business as usual. So incident and incident management equally important. Let's have a look quickly at what are the standards that are there, that are available in the market for various scenarios. And the first and the most common standard that is there is ISO 27001. It is more of a software development standard where you have a security policy in place and you get yourself audited with the standards that are there. Then a very upcoming and a very strong standard is GDPR. GDPR right now is mandated only in Europe, but it is a matter of time before which it will be mandated in USA, in India. India also is planning to have its own GDPR published. Hipaa, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, a very common standard for security standard for management of health data, typically around insurance and how the data flows over from one system to another. The kind of penalties that are there if you get caught with a Hipaa violation is phenomenally large. Hipaa violation, if you are caught with a Hipaa violation, then it is as good as that your company is going to close. It is that big. The penalties are that big. PCI DSS standard, it is the payment card industry data security standard. So if your system is dealing with payment through credit card, then you will have to implement this standard. You will have to comply with this standard. Indian IT Act, not that strong currently, though it is relatively very aggressively being implemented, but we are all waiting for the Indian GDPR to come in, but still a very nice act to study and to see its implementation. Then we have the electricity, North America Electric Reliability Corporation, the standards for that. This is again a very big standard. NIST publishes standards for a lot of different things. Then ISO 15408, which talks about security levels, common criteria, which is typically mandated for military-based systems, a lot of standards about how security should be handled within the military army. And then you have the ANSI standards, and then you have the IEC 62443, which is also a very strong standard from the military equipment perspective. Any questions, anybody? Can somebody say, am I going too fast, too slow? Just can you respond in your chat windows? Or is it okay? Or am I going too fast, too slow? Anybody? No? Okay. So when we are talking, okay, I got one message saying it's okay. I can even go a little bit faster. Okay, fair enough. So yeah, so when you are verifying a system, or when you are verifying the facts that are presented to you, or even if there is a legal case against you, the certifying authority or the decision-making authority relies on only 3 words. And these 3 words are very important words. These 3 words are due care, due diligence, and concrete evidence. These are the 3 words that you will have to utilize to see when a vulnerability or something happens, or when a proof is presented to you, whether it falls in this category. Due care is when due care focuses on whether someone did what they were supposed to do. Simple. It's a simple word. When, suppose, for example, you are dealing with credit card information. Have you taken enough care to protect the credit card data under all circumstances? There they will not listen to you when you say that, okay, the hacking happened. The hacking happened. The hacking is a way of life. But have you taken enough care to ensure that even if hacking happens, then even if the data is stolen, it cannot be misused? Like, have you encrypted that data? Have you ensured that you utilize high level of encryption? So due care is focusing on doing what you were supposed to do. If you are a PCI, say, again, coming back to healthcare, like if you are in healthcare, then what did you do to protect the healthcare data? Is the patient data secured? Even if a hacking happens on your system, your database is stolen, will the person be able to make use of that data? If yes, then you are in serious trouble. Then you have violated HIPAA, because you did not, even though knowingly you have not complied with the HIPAA regulations, the healthcare regulations. Say you are generating, you are doing edtech, you are into education software development. Have you ensured that any data of any children below the age of 18 cannot be divulged, or cannot even cross the country's boundaries, and you end up storing that data in a data center outside the country? Then you end up violation of the due care principle. Okay. Then due diligence. Did you diligently work to ensure that all the systems that are necessary to be in place are in place? Due diligence focuses on whether someone did what other reasonable people would do based on the situation they were in. So did you take care, were you diligent enough to act in case there were any problems, or even before the problems, did you diligently work to stop anything from happening? And finally, concrete evidence. Concrete evidence means verifiable evidence. It is not that something, as an auditor, you assume anything. You cannot assume anything, because then you are legally liable for action. You will have to verify and check whether whatever is presented to you as evidence is verifiable or not. And if it is beyond your knowledge, then you should be in a position, put your hand up and say, I need support, or I will take help of somebody who is able to verify the evidence or the data or the proof or the document that is presented before me. Okay. So these are the three things every auditor has to live by: due care, due diligence, and concrete evidence. Okay. So now we finally come to the process, the audit process itself. We have done everything that was necessary before. So now when we go for audit, when you are hired to audit, or there are a lot of good security companies in Ahmedabad that do only security audit. And what are their workflows? How do they work? I, as a information systems developer, hire the services of these audit companies a lot of times to get audit certificates for the systems that I develop for foreign clients, international clients. Okay. So the process is typically a 4-step process. The first thing is planning your audit. Plan your audit. Then conduct the checks that are needed. Create a detailed report about what you found during the checks when you compared it with your plan. And finally, act. Create a improvement plan. This is very important. Like, we typically, when we hire an audit company to audit our systems, we typically don't hire them for a one-off audit. When we do hire them, we at least hire them for 2 or 3 audits. What happens is, once you have put the report is created, you will need to fix those vulnerabilities. And when you fix those vulnerabilities, you will have somebody to do this check once again to say what all vulnerabilities remain, right? So it is very important that when we do audit, this cycle keeps on continuing, because there will be new vulnerabilities, because your development process continues. There will be new vulnerabilities, and there will have to be people who will have to continuously keep on checking what happens within those new development. So when you plan, what do? you set objectives. What do I want in this audit process? Your audit process cannot be a large open-ended audit process. Like typically when I get my systems audited, I have a clear set of objectives. That the most common objective that I lay down is I need my systems to be protected against OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. OWASP is an open source vulnerability standard website, and they publish from time to time the vulnerabilities, the common vulnerabilities for the particular year. So and this is the most common objective that IT systems need to follow, that I want my systems to be not be vulnerable against the top 10 vulnerabilities, because 90% of the hacks happen around these top 10 vulnerabilities. Then review the standards. What are the standards that are there? What are the current OS vulnerabilities? Then what does your client require? Is your client within the fintech domain? Is he in the healthcare domain? What are the risks? What are the requirements of the client? Then determine the risk requirements. Are we saying that we'll be 100% compliant, or we'll be 10% compliant, or we'll be 90% compliant, is what you need to understand. And then link to available standards and best practices. So these are the things that you need to do when you get on an audit process. You need to do planning of the system or planning of the audit. Then check. Then comes the most important activity, that you are going to check the system. You observe the operations, you interview users. This is people might think that how do you do all this? And literally you sit down and talk with users. Like I'll give you an example. We were a part of ISO 27001. In my previous organization, we were getting audited for ISO 27001, and the auditor was a lady, a very sharp lady, and she was walking down in my office. So there were a lot of people. We had 500 people. We had a big shop floor, development center, and all that. So what she did is she stopped against one of our developers' machine, and she told him, "Can I get your password? I want to send an email." And even after every training that we had taken for the implementation of IS 27001, the young developer gave her the password. We got a major NC because our training systems were not robust, and we had not conducted that kind of internal evaluation to ensure that our developers never give a password out to anybody unknown. So these are the kind of things that happen. Demonstration of processes, review of systems, document reviews, review policies, review procedures, review logs, review records, anything that is available for you to review, to ensure that whatever are the objectives, whatever are the standards, they are being followed and they are being implemented. So that is going to be very, very important, that you review everything. You review the system itself. Like when we give a system for audit, they ask that whatever are your user roles and responsibilities, document them. We will create a set of user roles and responsibilities, and we will check all the functions or all the accesses that are available to users at various levels. So that this is what you check. Then you create a report. You create a categorized list of vulnerabilities. Whenever you are documenting a vulnerability, you categorize it. Typical categorizations are three, that is major, minor, and observation. Typically, how the system works is when you are going for a SEI CMM audit or ISO 27000 audit or BS 9977 audit or any such audit, the major vulnerabilities, if there is even one major vulnerability, then the certification is not given to you, not issued to you, unless you don't act on it and don't close the vulnerability and it is not reviewed by the auditor. So they do, there are three things. For major, they will need a fix. For minor, they will need a plan. They will need a plan as to how you are going to fix it over a period of time. They will need a detailed plan. And for observations, it is simple. You do whatever you want. They have nothing to say. Now there is also linked to these standards, and there is a literally all the vulnerabilities that exist in the software industry today, whether it is software, it is hardware, it is any type of vulnerability, is published as a list, and that list is known as a CVE. This is a standard list that is available for everyone to observe to use. It is a free list and it is known as common vulnerabilities and exposures. This is a list which you can check and see whether any software that you are using has a vulnerability that you want fixed or you want a workaround against. So these are the things that you can do as a part of the report. And finally, act. So you will need to create a corrective and preventive action plan. There will be continuous improvement. So you will need to ensure some of the observations will go as a, even if there are observations, they can go as a part of your standards or as a part of your requirements or as a part of your objectives. They can go there. Because if you understand that OWASP top 10, when I said OWASP top 10, OWASP top 10 is a year-wise list. So when you say that, okay, my systems are protected against OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, the next question will be for which year? So if you say I am protected against OWASP top 10 2019, that means for 20 and 21 you have not got your system audited and your system is now vulnerable. So you have not done due diligence because your systems, you have not been current with your vulnerabilities. Okay, so these are the things. This is how an audit process should think. Continuous improvement, process reviews and upgrades, improve the processes of how things happen, and then upgrade to the training material also. These are very serious activities which need to be followed. So this is your audit process: plan, check, report, and act. So now you are going to review the system. So how are you going to review a system? If a system is presented to you, how are you going to do that? What are the various mechanisms available for this? So there are two common mechanisms. Okay, one is the manual process where you manually look at a system and observe the outputs, and second is an automated process, an automated system which generates a load and which collects the output, but that happens automatically. So we will see both. So how does a manual process work? So the manual process works by first you understand the flow of the system, how the software flows, how the hardware flows, what are the various things happening within the system. Then you understand the boundaries. What is the boundary of a system? What is the boundary of a typically input field also? Are there boundaries to your, say a date field? So what is the lowest date? What is the highest date? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Can somebody exploit the boundaries? Typically, that is what you see. Understand the validations. What are the validations in place? If something wrong were to be entered, what is the validation? Whether there are any validations in place. If not, Are they needed or are they not needed? So that is something that you need to do, understanding the validations. Then understand the access controls. Access controls means who is allowed to use what. Typically, never in a system there should be an access that everybody is allowed to access everything. So typically, when you say access control, you will have to say, okay, what can I do at what levels, who is allowed to use, see what data. Then, based on your understanding of the system and the access controls in place, plan the data. Okay, data you should plan for both positive and negative test cases. Don't just say, okay, all the positives are done, so I am happy. No, try to break the system also. Enter the data. You have to, there has to be a human being that enters the data, capture the results or exceptions if any, and analyze the results and exceptions. And then there is always this is a big terminology called ethical hacking. Manual ethical hacking means there are people sitting in a room who will try and break your system, but this is a very risky thing. So unless and until you have an agreement with the client, don't do it without taking the approval of the client, because Indian IT Act does not encourage ethical hacking. So if suppose tomorrow you find a flaw in, say, your electric company's website and you publish the results publicly, the Indian IT Act will penalize you, period. Whether you did it for the benefit of anyone, you are not supposed to hack into anyone's system. You are not supposed to manage data that is outside your access controls, and you are not supposed to publicly publish that data. You are only supposed to send that data to the helpline of your electricity company. If whether they respond or not is not your business. So when you do ethical hacking, please ensure that there are enough safeguards in place for you to carry out ethical hacking. Otherwise, refuse to do ethical hacking. Okay. There are times when you will have integrated systems. Your system may be passing the data to somebody, or you are accepting the data from some other external system, and you during the time of your audit, you find out a flaw in your integrated system. This is a third-party system. Your job is to report this bug to either your company or to the company whose software you are using. That is it. You cannot publish the results outside of your domain. Okay. Okay. So automated processes. This is the manual process. Now comes the automated processes. So what do? There are automated scripting systems. So whatever data, whatever year, if you find, if you see this, then at this level, when you reach this level, you will not enter the data manually, but you will create a script, a software, a common software which can be easily created. There are a lot of softwares available for this that will enter the data for you in the existing system and capture the results. These two, when you talk about automated scripting based automation, then these two can be automated, and then you carry on with the other tasks. Okay. So automating data entry processes. Then this is something that is a fascinating field, that is vulnerability assessment testing. You find out what are the vulnerabilities within the system, and this is really an automated process which can really stress your system out to find out where the vulnerabilities are. And then equivalent with that, there is something called penetration testing, where you try to penetrate into the system using your user ID or password, which is not given to you. So you try to, these are all, many a times both of them are used together. So vulnerability and penetration testing are synonymously used many a times. Log analysis. Log analysis very important. There are logs of a lot of actions that you create that are present, and you open those logs and you analyze and see. This is a treasure trove of information, again, because logs are generated automatically and all of them are stored in one single file. So you can conduct an analysis of your log files. There are automated tools available that can take a log file as an input and then give you the analysis as to what is happening within the logs. Then you have the cognitive process. Artificial intelligence and machine learning can be used to create a kind of a predictive model for security, which says, okay, the chances of your system getting hacked or chances of your system getting attacked are how much. So there are a lot of, this is a very, very upcoming field. So now with artificial intelligence and machine learning being implemented in all domains, this security domain is also one of the places where artificial intelligence and machine learning is being utilized. Automating testing scripts quickly using a scripting language to automatically post data and mimic user inputs. The benefit is the user input is configurable. Automation helps in large scale testing. So what you can do, with automation is 100 times multiple of what you can do manually. But this is only used for entering data and collecting the output that is there. The results can be automatically captured and analyzed. Intelligent alerts can be set up to say where the system is breaking, and it is easy to perform. There are a lot of common open source tools like Selenium for people who understand technology. Selenium is a very, very, very popular test automation tool which can be used for this purpose. We use Selenium a lot for testing of our systems, but even for security testing, borderline testing, boundary testing, all those things, we can also use Selenium. There are a lot of such tools that are there. Vulnerability assessment testing. What is vulnerability assessment testing? Assess the vulnerability of the system. As the name says, you are trying to assess the vulnerability, how vulnerable it is, at how much stress will the system break. So that is what you are trying to find out. Tools to generate standard tests used. You can really find out that, okay, I am using a Microsoft system, so these are the 10 top CVE vulnerabilities. Let me test against whether these vulnerabilities exist in my systems or not. And what do I do to close those vulnerabilities? We can do. There is a very popular tool called Nessus, and Nessus is used quite extensively. It used to be free at one point of time. It's no longer free now. It is a paid site, but very, very popular. It generates, it mimics the activities of a hacker. So it generates hacks. So that is how it works. It can generate tests for a range of IPs. You can literally define the IPs, or you can define the machines on which you want this test to be conducted, and it will conduct the test. There is simple, I can show you a screen that is taken where it gives you the vulnerabilities. So on Mozilla Firefox, there are 36 vulnerabilities that are still open, and I am testing it on a Mac OS X local security check. Okay, so this is how you can do a vulnerability testing using the tools that are available using Nessus. For people who want to have a look at it, this is one of the various reports that are there. I can share it if you want later, but this is one of the things that we have done. Again, penetration testing. So penetration testing is also known as pen testing, trying to find out loopholes in the system, access right violations, and all those things you find out using penetration testing. Okay, it is equivalent to ethical hacking. Then comes cognitive security testing. Cognitive security testing is the application of artificial intelligence technologies patterned on human thought process to detect threats and protect physical and so what you do is you create artificial intelligence and machine learning models out of the data that is available. So you continuously keep on collecting log data, and based on the data that is collected within your logs, you run an artificial intelligence machine learning model that predicts what is happening within your system. And this can be online, this can be offline, this can be real time, where literally, like as the data is getting generated, the artificial intelligence engine will raise alerts as to what is happening and what are the chances of you getting hacked. So this is typically cognitive security testing. Such security systems are designed to solve problems without requiring human resources. Machine learning algorithms makes it possible for cognitive systems to constantly mine data for significant information and acquire knowledge through advanced analytics. The systems learn to anticipate as more and more data gets fed into an artificial intelligence model, it learns to anticipate threats. So it is able to say, okay, if this is something like this is happening, there are chances of a hack happening, or there are chances of a hacker entering into the system, so on and so forth. Okay. Log analysis. There are lots of logs available: system logs, application logs, database logs. Logs are generated at all places. You can generate for any software that you develop. You can create your own log file also. You can create events for which logs can be generated. So computer and network and IT systems generate records called audit trails. They are there at all places. Like people who literally have some understanding of Microsoft or Windows, they know that there are audit trails available at all places. Log analysis is the evaluation of these records used by organizations to help mitigate a variety of risks. Log comprises of several messages that are chronologically arranged and stored on a disk, in files, or in an application like log collector. Analysts need to ensure that the logs consist of complete range of messages and are interpreted according to context. Wherever hacking happens, the first thing that a hacker does is destroys the log file, so that whatever fingerprint he is leaving behind, that cannot be traced back to him, and that is the evidence of a hack is erased. So the first place a hacker will attack is your log file. Once log data is collected, cleaned, and structured, they can be properly analyzed. Okay, lot of things that can happen using a log file, a log analysis. Log analysis serves several different purposes to comply with internal security policies. Yes, this is very important. Why a log file analysis is needed? The first thing it does, it says whether your internal security policies or outside regulations and audits are being complied with or not. To understand and respond to data breaches, if there is access, somebody is able to access data which is far beyond his rights, then your log file should be able to capture it and display it and say, okay, somebody has accessed data that he is not supposed to be accessing. And to troubleshoot systems. So if there are any violations happening within the system, because you have to understand there is one principle of security that is called availability. So the system's availability cannot be compromised. So you will have to see if there are any violations happening within a system or a computer or a network that will entail that the system will go down eventually. Okay, and to understand the behaviors of the users, and finally to conduct forensics and event of an investigation. So log files, typically whenever there is a forensic audit happening, whenever the cyber security team comes in place, the first thing that they does is have a look at the log files. Log files will give you a complete history into, or a fingerprint of the crime that was committed. All future investigations can happen later, but the first and the most important thing that happens is analysis of the log files. Finally, why is security audit necessary? So understand the risks present in a system. You have to first find out how many risks are present in the system, because you do not have the money as well as the manpower to fix all risks. So you understand along with the risks the robustness of the systems. So if these risks were to happen, then what happens? How robust is the system? Gather evidence in case of an outage. If an outage has happened, if an exposure has happened, if a vulnerability has taken place, somebody has exploited the vulnerability, then what happens? How do you face it? How do you stop it? That is what is important. And then continuous improvement. Like as I mentioned, continuous improvement is the way of life. You keep on, you have something, you build on something, and you then correct it and move on, and you develop it, and again you audit it and find out. So this keeps on happening. And finally, feed to upgrade the training material. Maintaining the training material is very important for whatever security standards you are going to process. The first thing that they will do is ask you to create training material and ensure if there is any policy or control that is in place, it is propagated and it is known and it is taught to everyone within the organization. So this is more or less it about security audit, the fundamentals of security audit, why we should do security audit, and what does it entail. So if there are any questions, I can take further questions. I can allow you to unmute yourself and ask questions. Let me do that. First of all, let me change.
Hello.
Yes.
Dr. Khushru Sahib, can you make an announcement that those who want CP hours email to you or WhatsApp us?
Yeah, so your CPE hours are allowed for this seminar, for attending this seminar. So whosoever wants to claim the CISA CPE hours, please send a WhatsApp message to Nitin Bhai, and he will give the due documentation that is necessary for claiming the CPE hours.
Okay. And any question, answer, can I open it to everyone
Yes,
who wants to?
Please open it. Please open it.
You can even also unmute themselves.
I'll unmute all. Okay.
Allow our participants unmute themselves. Okay. I have also done it. So any question on any subject? Dr. Khushru, unmute करना है, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you can unmute yourself and ask questions. If you want to ask questions, you can unmute yourself and ask questions.
Anyone wants CP hours, just email us and call for personal PC use, some guidance. Can we have this lecture on? We would put it on our blog at cnitinmbathak.blogspot.com, and we would have our presentation also in YouTube. This presentation, you can go there and you can directly ask the question. Can you have your slide where your mobile number and email ID is there?
No, I don't have a slide there, sir.
But can you?
I can write it down. Okay, I'll write it down. Give me a minute.
You can directly ask the question.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Welcome.
Yeah. So it was, Doctor, it was an excellent session. And the question doesn't arise reason. It was explained so well. So it is all digestible.
Thank you. Deepak bhai, do come over to every class which we have it and ask everybody to join the class.
Yeah,
we do have the recording available on our blog as well as.
So I have one very basic question.
Yeah, welcome.
So how does financial audit or security audit or compliance audit or security test differs? So if you can describe in brief.
Come again, sir. I just lost you.
So how does quality audits,
Okay.
security audits, financial audits, they differ? If you can describe in brief.
The process is the same. The objective is different. That's the one-line answer.
Okay, great.
That is the only answer.
Yeah. So in security audit, you are looking at it from the point of view of security. From the quality audit, you are looking at the point of view of quality. From financial audit, you are looking at it from the point of view of finance is money. So process will remain the same. The things that are done there will be different. The objective that you want to achieve is different.
Vedant, your question is that how you can connect it to ISACA chapter. We do have our email ID, nitinmpathak@gmail.com. You have Dr. Khushru's email ID. Okay, you can contact us and we will answer all your queries. And whatever support you want to do, CISA or any course, we are always welcome. We have been supporting people since so long.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Khushru and Dr. Khushru Doctor and Nitin Bhai, for this session and the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Any question?
My number and my email ID is there, so you can use
but
it.
We are not able to see it. Your slide. You need to bring your slide.
Chatma.
Okay.
I've written it in chat.
Okay. No, we are not able to get in chat also. Are you able to see it in chat?
Sorry, I did not share it with everyone. So let me share it with everyone. Okay, sorry.
So you can chat me directly. Okay, sir, I cleared CISA in 2000. Going to apply for the. Thank you for your support. Please call on me at 9825804094. Call on, email me at nitinampathak@gmail.com or the site through which is covered. You can contact kfdoctor@gmail.com. We would all support you in full to do whatever you want to do. We want our chapter to grow more than 50% this time. So anyone wants anyone to come, we are taking daily next Saturday, Friday, 6:30, same Zoom seminar by Dr. Sunny Waghela. He would be talking on IS security. Every week, some or other lecture is there. You are most welcome. Yeah. Thanks. Can we conclude now? Dr. Khushru, once again, thank you very much. And a lot of applause from all of us. It was a wonderful presentation. See you again. See you once again. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you. Thank you. We are leaving now.